The Dead Pair podcast is brought to you by the Elite Experience, Elite Shotguns, and is fueled by Fiocchi.
Paul?
Welcome to the Dead Pair podcast, coming in hot with everything you want to hear about sporting clays.
Guy Fieri.
How are you, gentlemen? Thanks for having me.
Anthony Matarese Jr., how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty well.
Welcome back, David Radulovich.
That's a net positive. Brad Kidd.
Cory Kruse. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Now I feel awkward.
With your hosts, Jason
One
Rambo
more Red Bull for you.
and Sean Alley.
Woo, yeah!
Christmas.
Let's do it.
Often imitated but never duplicated. It's the Dead Pair podcast. And now, it's showtime.
Welcome back, Mr. Large and in Charge.
What's been going on with you, Jason?
A little this, little that, and a whole lot of missing targets.
Okay. So you're just like everybody else in the game,
Yeah,
then.
right.
Gotcha.
How about you?
Been working on my new gun. Kolar, finally got that Kolar. Thank you. Big shout out to Elite Shotguns, Brian Palmer down there at Vero Beach. They helped me select out a gun, and I got the demo back to him, so I was very happy with that. So been working on tweaking some things, getting the fit right, and all that fun stuff. Still a work in progress, obviously. But, you know, I love it, man. I tell you what, it's a good quality gun. The wood is gorgeous. I mean, pretty much any Kolar I see, the wood's just phenomenal. Blows pretty much everything else away out there. But the gun's great. I mean, it's solid. Very, very similar to my DT11 as far as the feel, the weight. You know, it's a big, hefty gun. And for me, that's what I like.
Right.
So just really excited to learn to shoot it and hopefully get some things transitioned, because going from that high rib down to a mid rib, it's a little bit of a change on some targets.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's a totally different sight picture.
Yes, definitely.
But
Jason, I found out something the other day that I didn't realize. That coffee that we have, they roast that every time you place an order. It's not just sitting there on the shelf ready to go.
that is correct. They do not.
I had no idea.
It's roasted to order.
Yeah, so it's never going to get stale. You're never going to get stale coffee or nothing like that.
That's right.
I tell you, I've given a bag away to just about everybody in my family, sent a couple bags out to some friends and stuff, and everybody really loves it. It's smooth, easy to drink, really good flavor. My brother just raved about it. Him and his wife just absolutely raved.
That's
about
awesome.
It.
So they're okay. So they've joined a subscription service and they're going to get it regularly.
Yeah,
right?
they're just about. I think they're just about out of their first bag, so they know where they're going to get more. And they were actually going to look at some of the other blends that they have on their Adult Induced website. So
yeah, well, our new blend's supposed to be coming out here soon.
Cool.
So a big drop on that one coming.
And that one's going to be a little more robust, right? That's a bolder blend.
Yeah, so I was working with them on that one. It is a dark roast, but it's got a little hint of caramel in it.
That's nice.
So it's, even though it's a pretty powerful blend, it's got that little bit of smooth taste to it. You know what I mean? So I can't wait for everybody to try it.
If you like a good coffee, it's definitely worth the shot. I mean, if you're already buying something like a Black Rifle or a custom, I mean, this is the same up the same alley. So
yeah, every bit of the same quality.
Yep, definitely.
Every bit.
Definitely.
I just think it's cool. They do not roast it until you order it.
That's really neat. I had no idea. So that was really a shocker.
But hey, listen, before we get to our guest tonight, we are going to be breaking down tournament costs. We've had a lot of people email us asking, they want to know where their money goes, right, for a tournament. But before we get to that, we have a questions for the coaches with Mr. Cory Kruse.
Yep, love us some Cory. All right, one of our very favorite coaches. We like them all, but this is Mr. Cory Kruse. Going to answer a couple questions here. Cory, I'm going to start with this one. This is from Stephanie J. She writes in, hey, I don't get to shoot a lot of targets that fly below my feet. When I go to a tournament that has this type of target, I struggle, especially on an incoming target that's low. Any tips on how to understand how to shoot these much better?
That's a good question. I mean, there's really no substitute for the actual thing. I think that it's really important to know your exact point of impact at eye level, at 45 degrees, and then below your feet. I think that would help your brain register where the gun's actually shooting at a target below your feet, and could probably help you out pretty easy. I know if you're still paying attention to all the same things about your form mechanics, matching the speed of the bird, really keeping your eye on the clay, etc., that you should still get feel if you are missing the bird. So that being said, if you're getting feel on the miss and you're missing over the top, or some of the common things that people say, it could be a point of impact difference. It could be a gun fit thing. I know when I'm shooting a target that's below my feet, it feels the same as if it's a eye level crosser, but that's not really teaching you anything, because what feels normal to me isn't going to be the same for everybody else. So I would say just focusing on your point of impact, knowing where the gun shoots, where you expect it to shoot and where it's actually shooting. And if you need to see what the point of impact is below your feet, well, you're going to have to figure out a way, get up and stand on top of your truck or something and shoot the pattern board below eye level. If you have an opportunity to get up higher than that, then do it. You just got to think of different ways to substitute for that alternative. Something we do here in Houston, Ron Ewer and I actually had this custom basket built that would go on a cherry picker lift, so we could get up high in the air and shoot low crossers and, everything below our feet. And then it just all of a sudden became normal, and it wasn't something that would stick in my mind anymore. So I would say just figure out a way to practice it. Think outside the box, get creative, but always know where your gun's shooting.
Gotcha.
Well, Cory, this next one, now, this guy asked a lot of questions in one paragraph. So let me just read through this, and I'll let you pick it apart as you will. Bob T asks, how do you establish proper gun fit? Do you utilize the patterning board or just shoot targets? Can someone fit themselves using a patterning board? And if so, how does one use the patterning board correctly? What is your preferred 50-50, 60-40, 70-30, etc.?
So for the first part, I don't know. Where you tell me where you want me to start.
He says, how do you establish proper gun fit? So obviously he's wanting to do it himself, not go to a fitter.
Right.
He says, do you utilize the patterning board?
Well, it depends on your definition of what gun fit is. If it just looks pretty and you mount it well and it looks like your head's in the right spot, that really doesn't mean anything. The purpose of gun fit is to make sure that the point of impact registers with where you expect it to hit. Now, whether that's flat 50-50, a little high at 60-40, I would say my gun's about 60-40. It was actually a little bit higher than that, and I really struggled with it, but I actually just this will kind of answer your question. Can one do it himself? Absolutely. You can go in a shop, take a wood rasp and a sander and move it down. But now if you need to move it up, you can use some moleskin. I also used a Dremel tool to shape the grip of my gun. I think that the grip shape is very important because your hand will take some of the recoil out. And I think that it does well to hold the gun in your face easier if your wrist is in a comfortable position. Gun fit and weight and balance is equally important, because if you get the gun fit right, but if it's too front heavy or too back heavy, it's still going to bump you in your cheek if the drop isn't right, if the pitch isn't right. So yes, the answer is you could do it yourself if you know what to look for. If the gun's if the gun's bumping you in your cheek, if it's kind of bucking in your shoulder, those are all different things that you can easily adjust. It's just probably not going to look pretty unless you're some sort of craftsman with wood. Depending on where you're at, there's a lot of mega talented gun fitters in the industry. Here in Houston, we have Larry Phelan. He can fix you up really easy. You'll see Jim Greenwood on the road. He's an absolute master at it. But if you're looking to do it yourself, yeah, you can. Just depends on your personal talent level of how crafty you are. If you've done it on a lesson with moleskin, washers, we used to cut up, different shell boxes and wedge them underneath the pad to change the pitch angle and just screw the screw back down in there to hold them in place. If you look at Greg Wolf's gun or my gun right now, there's usually some sort of electrical tape on it holding some kind of crap in there just to hold it. So at the end of the day, everyone wants their gun to look pretty, but it's got to be functional. And right now, I would rather it be functional over look good. But it turns out it don't look too bad either way.
Awesome. Well,
which question did I miss out of that? I go off my own little tangents.
Well, one of them, and I think I can probably answer this. It's probably preference, but he's like, do you prefer 50-50, 60-40, 70-30? That's kind of a preference thing, right? Like, how much do you want to float the target?
One size fits all. I think it's good for someone to actually have a 60-40. If I had to pick one, that's what I'd say. I think that you can see the bird better, especially crossing targets, teal shots, tower birds. If you float the clay a little bit, I think it gives you visibility of the entire clay. So that's would be my preference, would be a 60-40. Now, if I'm a trap shooter, it might be different. Skeet shooter, it might be different. But for sporting clays, I think 60-40 is a happy medium for all.
Awesome. Cory, man, we as always, we really appreciate you spending a few minutes with us for questions for the coaches. And we've got another one coming up soon for you, so we'll let you go. But thank you again very much, buddy.
Totally, man. Appreciate you guys, too. Thanks for what you're doing, and hope it helps.
The Dead Pair.
Cory's a heck of a guy, isn't he, Jason?
I'm telling you what.
The man knows his stuff.
I can't. You know what, dude? I want to go shooting with him so bad.
I know. One of these days we'll hook up with him.
It's the thing, you know. I mean, it's schedules, you know. So
we're all busy. We're all busy.
Hopefully he can make it up here to the Northeast at some point. If not, I'm going to be living down south here before too long.
I think he really doesn't like the northern weather. It's the brash truth.
Well, it's because he's so skinny. He needs a little bit of this redneck meat on his bones.
Yeah, maybe you'll have to borrow your Carhartts when he comes up here in July.
Hey, let's get our guests, Brian Palmer and Mr. Mike Boire, on the phone. Mr. Boire is from Greater Houston Gun Club. And, of course, Brian Palmer with Elite Shotguns and Vero Beach Clay Shooting, two of our sponsors. He's going to join us from down south in Vero. So let's get them on the phone, Sean.
Got it.
All right, on the phone with us, we have Brian Palmer from Vero Beach Clay Shooting Sports and Mr. Mike Boire from the Greater Houston Gun Club. How are you, fellas?
Doing well. How are you guys?
Doing great.
Awesome to be here. Good to hear you guys.
Sean's trying to break in that new Kolar, Brian. He's doing his best.
I'm working on it. Been working on the setup and having lots of fun, man. I love that gun already. So I can't wait to get it figured out.
Like that. We don't stop when you get it. We want to make sure you get it all set up right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just I've only had it for about a week now, so I'm just kind of working around with the fit, working around with the pitch and everything on my shoulder. So just trying to get it lined up to where it's shooting where I'm looking.
Well,
perfect.
Guys, we've had a ton of inquiries about tournaments. You know, where people want to know where their money goes when they pay, $85 or $95 for 100 birds. They want to know where it goes. And I thought, how cool, we'll get somebody from Texas, somebody from Florida. I've got some numbers here from up in Ohio from a local club, and we'll just give some perspectives on this stuff. Brian, let me start with you, if you don't mind. So when you guys have 100 bird, first of all, let me ask this. What is your regular, now I'm not talking like the Caribbean or anything like that, just your regular monthly shoot. What is your charge for 100 birds on average?
Sure. We charge $80 for entry fees, lunch, and all that good stuff. And then on top of that, there's $6 in fees, $4 for the NSCA and then $2 for the FSCA on 100 birds. And then tax comes to another, $6 or $8. So our total entry fee, all said and done with taxes, is $92.02.
Okay. So you kind of got ahead of me there. How much did you say you pay an NSCA? What basically is it like per target? How does the NSCA charge for your registered targets?
Sure. NSCA is 4 cents per target. So it comes out to $4 100 or $2 for 50. And then we have the FSCA, or the Florida Sporting Clays Association, which is $2 100. So all those organizations do a lot for the shooting community. So we are certainly glad to participate in those fees with all the good stuff they do. So that's kind of where the baseline money goes.
Gotcha. And Mike, let's swing over to you real quick. Same question. So what are your fees and what do you guys charge for a regular tournament? Nothing special, just your monthly tournament.
Yeah, NSCA fees are the same, of course. TSCA fees are, pretty much right there as well, at least pretty close. We have the FITAS shoots that we just did the Grand Prix. We had to pay, FITAS organization quite a bit there. But other than that, yeah, we pay, usually I think we went up to $87 this year. And that includes lunch, and we pay out pretty good. We do our buckle race series, which is what I'm kind of thinking of. We do 6 of those each year. There's a couple hundred birds to shoot, but the main event, we pay out $1,000 to HOA. We pay in the classes too. So we pay out pretty good. We do pretty good lunch. We got trappers everywhere. Trappers, we hope they're pretty good at least. But yeah, it's about the same as Brian down there in Florida.
So the Ohio State Association fees are 2 cents at targets. It's $2 a hundred. Not too far off from where you guys are. And of course, like you said, NSCA, everybody pays the same. So what about, Mike, the target itself? Like, and I know that, you know, as somebody that sells this equipment, I understand the cost difference between, you know, standard pitch targets versus rabbits versus 90s versus 70s versus Batus. But what on average, and I know colors can deviate cost a little bit, what on average do you pay per target?
Yeah, they vary quite a bit. I got an average in front of me I put together today. So actually, and it's gone up quite a bit in trucking and then cost of pitch and everything. But a few years ago, our cost, and this is our cost in the barn, which you got to figure that's, you know, us buying them, paying the tax on it, paying the trucking on it, getting them here, unloading them and putting them in our barn. And that doesn't now include then paying staff to, you know, go put them in the machines and maintain them out there as well.
Right.
But our target cost in the barn a couple of years ago is about 7.5 cents. Now we're close to about 12 cents.
Wow.
So that's gone up quite a bit, you know, and considering we throw 8 or 9 million this year we'll throw. So that's, you know, it's a lot of sense.
Yeah. And a lot of that price increase is obviously because the fuel prices are higher, trucking is more expensive, freight's more expensive. So that's into that
even just the cost of pallets, you know, pallets have gone up, the cost of trucking has doubled. White Flyer's gone up a couple times because their raw material costs have gone up. And I mean, across the board, everybody's costs are going up.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, you're probably right about the same, correct?
Yeah, we're down on this lovely peninsula, so it's trucking is a little more, so we pay a little bit more for them. But everything's, you know, right in line. We would rather throw the best stuff and use the best stuff, so it costs what it costs, you know.
Right. Here a while back, I noticed somebody threw a 100-bird, well, I guess you could call it a 100-rabbit tournament. It was all rabbits, the whole thing. Brian, what in the world did they pay for those targets?
A lot.
A lot.
Anything specialty. It's not unique to targets, but you know, anything that's specialized or specialty to one thing is going to cost more. Plus, they're a heavier, denser target, so it's more material, and there's less of them in a box. So, any way you stretch that out, it's just going to cost more to do. But it sounds darn cool, and I'd like to shoot it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of variation, obviously, in the targets, and I'm sure that probably clubs are varied based on how many targets they buy from White Flyer. I'm sure they give a different price break. If you're buying, you know, 800,000 versus 5 million versus, you know, 50,000, obviously there's a lot of difference in the price structure. So a bigger club probably benefits from buying in a little more bulk, right?
That's correct. And then also who your distributor is. You know, I don't think any clubs buy direct from White Flyer except for maybe NSC, maybe not even. But, you know, we go through Briley, who they own part of our club. So they're our distributor. And, you know, I'm not sure who the guys in Florida go through. They were going through Gamil at some point. But, you know, it depends on your distributor and what they're marking them up there as well.
Gotcha. Well, all right. So we've talked a little bit about targets and everybody, most people kind of just have it in their mind like, oh, well, I go to Walmart and I buy a box of targets for this. You know what I mean? But that's Walmart probably buys more targets than the top 10 clubs put together, right?
You need to understand they're buying a box of 90 targets, not 135.
That's true.
And they're buying trap and skeet bio targets versus pheasant targets.
Right.
That is true. Yeah, we've talked about this, you know, when we had Mr. Robert Crow on the show. There's a big difference between AA trap and skeet targets and pheasant targets because of the way they're made. You know, a AA trap and skeet is meant to be thrown on a flat plane at 55 miles an hour versus a pheasant target that'll handle extreme angles, extreme spring pressures. So there's a big cost difference there. And I think, Mike or Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's to the tune of about $1.75 a box difference. Isn't that correct? Between the AAs and the pheasants?
I think it's pretty close to that. I haven't looked in a little while, but it's pretty close. Now we go through quite a lot of AAs because our skeet program here is still pretty strong. And we got Texas State skeet coming up and our Briley Blue Goose coming up. And we'll throw, 300,000-400,000 of those here just in that 2 weeks. But that's all AAs. It has to be, you know, AA orange dome pheasant or AA orange domes.
Well, that's something we'll get to here in a minute is, you know, all of you guys keep a variety of targets on hand. The storage of those targets, somebody's got to pay for that building.
Right.
But we'll get to that here in a minute. Sean, you had a question about lunches?
Yeah, well, okay, so here's another big one. And for us here in Ohio, one of the perks that we have, we don't do a lot of money shoots here in Ohio, but everybody looks at it as an entertainment factor, right? So lunch is very important. And a couple clubs do a very nice job. So I know the prices are going to vary wildly depending on obviously who you're bringing in, if you're bringing in, a catering truck, if you're bringing in a restaurant serving the food, or if you're actually trying to do the home cooking, if you happen to have a kitchen or something, or kitchen staff at your club. Obviously that varies, but I mean, would I be safe to say that at a bare minimum, most of the time you're going to be around at least $10 to $15 a person for a lunch if you had to average that out for a couple hundred people or 100 people showing up at your course?
Yeah, I think that's a safe bet, especially if you're bringing it in. If you have a kitchen there and your staff's able to handle it, obviously your margins will be a lot better on that. But we're between maybe 12 and 17 most of the time.
Okay.
And that's trying to get pretty good quality lunch. The caterers who are a little cheaper, you usually get what you pay for.
Right. Brian, what about you?
Yeah, it's really similar. It depends on the menu. We try to vary the menu. So, we look to have the best meal possible. We kind of draw for us about $20 would be the cap, because, it's about showing everybody a good time and having a good event. So we will spend a little bit more there.
Gotcha.
Now, Brian, and this is going to get interesting because different parts of the country, not FETAS, don't get ahead of me, but what do you guys pay for trappers for a day?
Well, we're really fortunate down here in Florida that we have a lot of retirees around us. To be honest, so we do trappers for everything we do. We actually do squatted starts with trappers. Trappers, depending on size of the event, it varies, but it's between $75 and $100 for a monthly shoot. Generally closer to the 75, but if they grow bigger and we have to add a rotation, it can get up to close to $100 a trapper. And then the big shoots get even bigger than that because it's all day. So that can range up even a little bit more than that.
Okay. And Mike, what about you? Are you in the same range or anything different there?
Well, we've upped it a little recently, and I will say on that, those clubs in Florida, I grew up down there, and they've got awesome trappers. I've shot all over the world and country, and they have such a good staple of trappers down there in that South Florida area that they're really fortunate to have. And we have something pretty similar here. We have a few other gun clubs that run a lot of corporate shoots. So there's a lot of these retirees that, they're retired, but man, they make, 40, 50, 60,000 a year just trapping at all these events 5-6 days a week between all the clubs.
Wow.
But we've upped it recently. We were doing 60 for half days and 120 for full days. And we pay them a little bit more if they're NSCA certified. But that's for our corporate shoots and NSCA shoots as well. But we've upped it recently. We're paying them a flat rate, $20 an hour. So kind of incentivize them, a little bit. So those longer days are getting a little more, but it's helped us to get really some better trappers and maybe weed out some of the not as good ones, because, it's hard here because, sometimes we'll have a 4-course event and we need 55 or 60 trappers out here. But then, West Side and the other side of town's got a 3-course event, and then another club might have a 1 or 2-course event. Man, this whole city, that's 100 and something trappers. So it's quite a bit.
Yeah.
So we've upped it really just so we can kind of keep the better ones here. That's been a big focus for us this year. So we've upped that cost quite a bit, but I think it's working out, and we've hired a guy just kind of managing just that, just to kind of help us lock that part of it down a little bit better.
Okay. And both those prices are based on like your standard sporting, right? That because FETASC, obviously everybody that judges FETASC is certified, and those guys cost even more, correct?
Correct. Well, for our majors 2 shoots, we do the Browning Briley and the Diamond each year. We actually bring Mo Parsons in, and he has a crew from San Antonio, and they do all of our FETASC and all of our 5-stand.
Okay.
And we pay them substantially more per day, but it's fantastic. The shooter experience is much better. It's much less of a headache on our part. We know, it's going to be done right, and it's money well spent, I think.
All right. And Brian, what about you guys in like FETASC or specialty events?
Yeah, previously, up until maybe the last 5 or so years, a lot of the FETASC referees for most of the Southeast were the same people, so you had to put them up and bring them in and everything like that. At this point, we've had a big initiative here in the state to certify, get a lot of the really good people that formerly were, station referees and moved them into FETAS positions. So they do make quite a bit more because of the certification and the job there. But they a lot of that expense with having to put them up and fly them in has gone away. So we're fortunate that we have a lot of really good local FETAS refs that actually travel around the country to do shoots as well.
Yeah, we're pretty fortunate up here in Ohio. We've got some really good FETAS refs.
We do.
And I think if I remember correctly, the number is 95 a day. Now here's one, and this is an ongoing topic amongst shooters, is golf cart rentals, and everybody's complaining about how expensive golf carts are. And hey, look, I'll admit it, I'm one of them. I think it cost me almost $900 for a golf cart for the Nationals. So, Brian, what do you guys charge for golf carts, and what does it actually cost you?
So we have a fleet of 24 that we get $30 a day for. Normally we do $40 for our monthly tournaments. But when we have to bring in golf carts, I think this is when people start to get their feelings hurt a little bit. It's expensive for the clubs too. It's not a profitable situation. It's more of a shooter
convenience,
amenity. We get charged well over $100 a day per cart. And not to get too deep into exact numbers, but with that service or that shooter service and what we had to have on staff, I mean, for the Caribbean, I lost $25,000-$30,000 just to have enough golf carts so that everybody had a ride.
Wow.
So, and that's big numbers. That's real numbers. But it's the cost of having a shoot. But at the same time, golf carts are just expensive. I mean, they get trucked in and trucked out. You just had an episode recently explaining how much a golf cart costs.
Mm-hmm.
So they're big ticket items. I mean, some of the ranges with larger fleets may not be as affected as much, but I know any of these shoots where you have to use any of the big national companies, you bring in a substantial amount of carts, and it's really just a pass-through expense to have the shooters have a ride. I mean, obviously we don't look at it as a profit center being we lose money on doing it, but it's something that we have to offer that service to be a relevant, legitimate shoot, and that's the most important thing to us.
Yeah. What about you guys, Mike? Do you guys carry a pretty big fleet, or do you bring them all in for bigger shoots?
So we used to lease carts here, as we had 50 on lease. We swapped them out every few years for our members, and we use those for our shoots. We recently abandoned that, and we actually purchased 40 new Easy Goes. They're real cool. They're lithium battery ones. They're pretty badass. But that, for a major though, 40 is nothing. You end up. I think we had about 95 here on site at the Browning Briley a couple weeks ago. But again, like Brian, that's not, it's not a profit center. That's not something we're looking to make a ton of money on. The ones that we have here, obviously we're still, we've paid for those. There's a gigantic expense at the beginning. But then we're also paying to staff that. We have 3 people that are there all week long, making sure those are charged, making sure they're clean, making sure the right people are getting them and they're going to the right place. So you have to manage that as well. And that's definitely not anywhere we're looking to make any money. It is, it's shooter experience and convenience. And like Brian said, it's the cost of running a shoot.
Right.
Yep. Now, here's one that a lot of people probably never, ever think about. There are a few clubs that I'm sure have maybe a tower or two, or maybe they have a scissor lift or a snorkel lift. But if you're doing a big shoot and you got to put up some big high towers, you're typically going to be renting from like a rental place, like a snorkel lift or a scissor lift or some kind of a system to get something up in the air. So
traptowers.com.
Okay. Yeah, Jason, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But, let's start with Mike. I mean, do you guys bring in regularly, like, I don't know if you do it on your regular shoots or if you kind of limit that to the specialty shoots. Do you guys rent scissor lifts, or do you rent snorkel lifts or anything to get up an elevated target to kind of throw for your shooters?
Yeah, we do. And for our regular shoots, our buckle races, we have a big 110-foot tower that's been here for a while. That's on our north course. And we recently purchased a small scissor lift and a telehandler as well. They're both, I think, 28-footers. We bought one of the lifts there from Jason, which is pretty cool as well. Now, for our majors, we do bring in a few of the big boom telehandlers. They're not cheap, man. I mean, that's a big expense. We've been able to get them sponsored in the past, but that's pretty hard to do. I think the guy who did that deal got in trouble for it, actually. But it's pretty easy to look up the cost of bringing those lifts in. We do the 40 footers, and they're between $2,000 and $4,000 a week, and we'll bring in 4 of those. Now, I remember seeing the pictures from the Jack Links. They had like 100 and something foot one in there, and those are expensive machines. They probably spent $10,000 or $12,000 to have that there just for the week.
Yeah, that one was a 180, I think it was, wasn't it, Jason? That big one.
No, it was retarded.
It was retarded.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny. You looked across the tree line, and this thing was twice as tall as the tree line. I'm like, what the heck are they throwing off of that?
Yeah, and when you think about that, there might be 4 of those machines in the state of Florida. Realistically, I mean, there's not a lot of them out there. So the cost of getting that machine, getting it there, having it there for not just the week of the shoot, but you need it there probably the week before as well, so you can be setting up and everything. It's not. I wish we could bring them in the day before and condense that rental, but you really can't with everything else on your plate. So you end up renting everything for 2 weeks. So yeah, it's a pretty big expense, but again, that's shooter value. If we didn't have the towers, our shoot probably wouldn't be very cool. So
right. Well, Brian, what about you guys? I mean, do you typically bring in like scissor lifts or snorkel lifts for some of your shoots, or do you limit that to something special?
We have our standard. We have a 60-foot tower on the East Course that works on 2 stations. We also have a 40-foot scissor lift, and then, for example, the Caribbean, we got 2 more 40-footers, and they're right in line with the prices in Texas. We get them. Our shoot's so long. We do it for 8 days, so it's a 2-week rental, and it's thousands of dollars to do that, but it brings a lot of value to the shoot. People that shoot our place for monthly shoots and stuff like that, where we can put a different presentation where we don't generally have a tower. So it all boils back to doing cool things for the shooter.
Well, here's one that nobody thinks about until they really, really have to. What about porta-johns? I mean, look, I don't care how fancy the place is. You guys don't have bathrooms built every 4 stations, right? So, I mean, obviously you're going to bring in porta-johns for the shoot. Those things are expensive.
Yeah, no doubt. I actually got my spreadsheet in front of me. We at the Browning Briley, we spent about $4,500 on porta-johns, and that it's about typical. I mean, we could spend anywhere between there, like 45 and 6,000 or 7,000, just depending on how many people we bring in, and then. Also those, the more luxury ones too, those AC, the air conditioned, nicer bathrooms, we bring one of those up front. Those aren't cheap either.
Yeah.
I've been to some shoots where they'll have 3 or 4 of those out there, and man, they spend some cash to have those there. They're not cheap. And then maintaining those as well. You have staff that has to go out and check those constantly. So that's another expense on top of that.
Anything different from you, Brian? I mean, pretty much the same cost, or?
I'm looking at the breakdown from the Caribbean. It's right on line with what we did. We had one of those, trailers, and then the rest were the regular Johnny's on the spot. And then, we have somebody on staff that's all they do is maintain those during the shoot. So, it's a sizable expense, but then again, it's an absolute necessity, because I think the whole goal of all this is to provide the best amenities as possible, to the shooter. So some of that just falls into expenses you're going to have. And if you're going to do it, it's best to do it right and make it something nice rather than going halfway and not having a good product.
So, Brian, I know you guys have a lot of traps. Both of you guys have a ton of traps on the property, but for bigger events, you're going to bring in additional traps. What do those cost? What does a rental trap cost, either per unit, or do you do it by per 50, 60? Can you tell everybody, what that kind of expense is when you have a big event, let's say like the Caribbean, where you've got all these other side events going on?
Sure. I mean, we have 136 traps. We got a lot on site. So we could, in theory, do a shoot just with our machines. But we do always bring in Promatic in the past. And this year, Rick Hemingway is going to be coming to help us with the Caribbean. But that fluctuates. I mean, Promatic has sponsored some events and stuff like that with us. So that price kind of fluctuates, but it's not expensive. All those traps, trailers and traps, regardless of what brand or who's running it, is a big investment for them as well. I mean, between $5,000 and $10,000 easily, and up from there, depending on how many traps you need. We've never really gotten into getting a tremendous amount of machines just because of the fact that we have so many. We usually bring in a relatively small fleet.
What about you guys, Mike? Do you guys bring in additional traps for like the Browning Briley?
We did this year. So we just bought about 50 more machines. In the last 4 years, I think we've bought almost 90 new machines. And we're probably going to buy more next year, but we're up to 252 right now. And for the Browning Briley, we were running about 280 something because we had the FITAS Grand Prix. And I mean, I'm crazy. I'll use like 7 machines on a parkour if I can. So we used quite a bit, but we usually bring Jason Minke from Briley in. He's got a good fleet. But they typically sponsor that though. So we'll pay Jason for his time and we pay him for him. But that is an item that we definitely get a bit of a break on. Not all clubs are as lucky, but we've got a pretty good relationship with Jason and Briley. So we get that, probably about as good as you could.
Gotcha. All right, let's go back to along the lines of targets. What about target setters? I mean, do you guys typically set your own targets for your monthly shoots and then just bring in maybe a big name setter for a big shoot, or how do you guys handle that, and what kind of costs are associated with that?
Since I've been here, which is about 5 years, we haven't brought anybody in yet. We kick the tires on it all the time, and usually my boss Kevin asks me, hey, do you want to bring somebody in? Who do you think? And I've called a few guys. The couple guys that I would love to bring in charge quite a bit. I mean, you could pay $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 to have a good target setter there for coming before and then staying after the shoot, pretty quick. And those guys are worth their weight in gold. I mean, it's fantastic, especially if you don't have the staff that we do. But I myself, I'm fanatical about it. That's by far my favorite part of my entire job. It's if I couldn't set the targets, I'd probably go work a different job entirely. And honestly, and my counterpart here, Henry Velasquez, he's fantastic. He's been here with me the whole time I've been here, and he does a really great job. So the two of us, we really take on the brunt of it ourselves. And we've been training a couple other guys up, and we all go through it together at the end of the events. Before the event starts, we vet everything together. We all get our eyes on it together and make sure we're all good with it as a group. But yeah, so far we haven't brought anybody in. We'll see if that changes in the future. But
gotcha. Brian, what about you guys? How do you do it?
We echo kind of on the same thing. I set as much of the stuff as I can before the event starts. Then my course manager, Kirk Perkins, he sets most of the monthly shoots and then a lot of the Caribbean. And then with the seasonality of our business here in Florida, we bring in Ben Wise from up in the Mid-Atlantic region for the whole season. So he's here and he sets a lot of targets. But it's hard to kind of figure exactly what it costs per shoot because he's here helping us with a lot of other things through that time. But it's not inexpensive. There's lodging and salaries and stuff like that. But to give an exact number on what it costs would be a lot more math than I'm going to do at 6:30 on a evening.
No, I'm not looking for exact
but no, this year we are, we've always had Promatic, sorry, Jason, we use them. They bring a trailer in and we set the targets. Rick's going to be helping us out this year with the Caribbean. So that'll be the first time there's somebody other than Kirk, Ben, and myself. And actually, I got to throw Trevor Shanahan came down last year and helped us out moving traps and stuff and set one of the events for us. So we do it mostly in-house with friends and people like that have, been involved with us for a period of time. But this coming year in 24 will be the first time that we actually bring in really a named target setter to help out with us.
Yes, I know. I'll be there in December. Anyway.
Of course. No. But that's for the Caribbean specifically. But yeah, so you guys will actually be the first outside target setters to give us a rip.
There you go.
Woohoo!
I love it. Well, at least one of us is educated on it. I don't know about Mr. Alley over here, but
I call it. I just said it with the force.
He eyes are shut. He just uses the force. Right. How about registration costs? And this doesn't include staffing. I'm talking about like whether you use Score Chaser, Win Score,
iClays.
Mike, let's start with you. Who do you use, and what is that? Is that an annual cost or is it a per tournament cost?
Yeah, it's usually a per tournament cost, and it's subject to change. We're actually switching over to Score Chaser now. We're kind of excited to do it. Now we'll have Gretchen Minke usually helps us with our scoring and our squatting and our scoring. We also do a lot of it in-house. We host we don't just do our registered shoots. We do about 100 and 120 corporate events per year. So I mean, we're running right now. I got an event going on right now. There's one this morning, and I got one tomorrow. I had one yesterday. So we have quite a big staff in-house that's able to handle most of that. So most of those girls do, but we do pay Gretchen, and if we need other help, we will. I know we're hosting the Texas State shoot next year. We'll probably bring somebody in for that as well. But yeah, that can very easily become a several $1,000 expense. You could spend $4,000 or $5,000 pretty quickly or more. But it's worth it, to get the job right. If registration sucks, it's kind of the first experience when you walk in the door.
Yeah,
right.
Get off the plane, get excited, come to the shoot, walk in the door, and have a bad experience in there. It's no fun.
Right. Somebody on the wrong squad or wrong rotation, or I could see that being frustrating.
Oh, or even just, sending out score sheets and everything to the wrong stations. I mean, there's bad things can happen when you have all these flights because you don't have much time to correct problems. You got 600-700 people standing out here, and all of a sudden, if all the score sheets are printed wrong and you don't know until a couple seconds before, then, So
yeah.
It's definitely nice to make sure that doesn't happen.
Now, Brian, you guys are with Score Chaser, correct?
Absolutely. We've used that since I've been here at Vero Beach. It makes our life a lot easier. I know when it first came out, it was something new, but now everybody here in Florida has adjusted. I think all the clubs here in Florida use it.
Yeah, I think Casey's done a pretty good job of making it about as painless as possible, both for the shooters and the clubs.
Absolutely.
All right, so let me ask it. I know you guys have a constant cost with your staff, but I'm assuming like when you have a tournament, you're probably bringing more people in than you typically would have on a regular weekend, right? And you might even be bringing in some extras, or because you got to have people to load the traps, you got people to empty the garbage, you got to have people, just running around basically keeping up on the course, and it's a lot, especially when you're throwing a lot of targets, right? So is there an added cost for the club itself to bring just the regular staff in or extra staff?
Well, I think average hours during the Browning Briley last week, most of my staff was averaging probably about 83 to 85 hours that week.
Wow.
And that's all, that's all overtime. It's all time and a half. And then plus the additional support staff we bring in, there's a couple other local guys we bring in to help, as course managers and help with loading and such. So yeah, I've got my spreadsheet here. We just total support staff extra cost that week is between, 28 and 35,000 for a typical major shoot.
Wow.
Which that's, a significant number, but we also have a very large staff. We throw a lot at it. We do. There's nights where we'll stay here till 7 or 8 o'clock to get it right. And, maybe we don't need to, but we think we do. So we're staying, and anytime we see something we can do, we're going to stay until we get it done,
Right. Brian, is it pretty much similar to you or something different?
Yeah, we have a really good staff inside and out that's here. With the size of our property, you guys have been here. We really have to be efficient to keep everything moving. So we do have to throw quite a few people at stuff to fill between rotations, just strictly with, to keep everything moving. So we have a staff of 4 daily, and for a tournament, we'll have 6 to 8. And then for like the Caribbean, with parking and all that kind of additional help, it was, relatively the same, a little higher than the expense for that shoot, but it's we do bring in quite a few people to help out with additional stuff just to make sure that everything flows properly and everything goes off. So
I'm going to dive into the big picture stuff, but before I get off of this, with tournaments, am I missing, if I missed something on cost wise, either one of you, any of the questions we've asked?
I think maybe payouts, that's a big one. And we try to be a little bit the leaders in that, as we can, we try to up the payouts a little bit. We did so with our regional, and we're upping them pretty good with the Texas State coming up next year. We're paying out $10,000 to HOA, which we're pretty proud of.
Wow.
But we, a little bit of that too, or a lot of it, we kind of consider ourselves, leaders in this sport, and we're one of the bigger clubs around, and like I said, an example when we can, and hope other clubs follow suit. We can pay this, and we're spending tons of money in all the other places on these shoots, but we're able to pay out, pretty well. And, we think it's important to do so. So we do.
Right. Brian, anything you could think of I missed?
I think the biggest thing that it boils down to, there's a lot of additional small expenses here, there, and the other, but it all boils down to having the best event possible. I know this, it's not poor me to the clubs. We do this because we love to, and the biggest thing is putting on the best event. I shoot all over the place, and there's certain places when you go there, you just know it's going to be good, and it's going to be memorable, and we all strive to do that. And, things down to, coffee and donuts in the morning, obviously, now where we get our coffee, parking attendance, water on the course. We have bottled water, put out daily in coolers on the courses, that for daily business and tournaments. Show targets, it's not always as simple as, it's not a 100-bird event. You don't throw 100 targets. We always figure when we put out targets for 120 to 130 per entry. So that goes into your cost of targets and goods. Maintenance is a constant thing on the club. There's a lot of things that go into it, but the biggest thing is that we do it because we love to and we like to see everybody out. But it's not a sprint to the bank situation for really anybody on one of these shoots.
Well,
I think well said, Brian. Really,
I'm gonna dive into some of that stuff here because I want people to understand. I've heard some comments in the past, and as somebody that sells equipment to these clubs, I understand what a lot of these costs are. And not only that, but owning a business myself. And sometimes I think people I don't know if they perceive it wrong or what it is, but they think, well, these, capitalist pig clubs, and it's like, now hold on a minute here. So let me ask a quick question before we dive into some of this other stuff here. Is there a set cost or a set profit per shooter that you try to make as a club just on a monthly tournament? I understand when you have a big blast shoot, the expenses are wildly different. But like on a regular monthly tournament, 100-bird course, is it, okay, we want to try and make, 50 of that $100 on a shooter. Is there anything like that the club tries to do in order to maintain their head above water, if you will? And I'll explain why I say head above water here in a minute. But Mike, let's start with you. Do you guys have a target number that you try to seek?
Well, we do, but we're a little privileged in this because our business model here is, really honestly kicking ass, and that's really to Kevin and our whole staff's credit. But our corporate program is so strong. We have 1,500 members. They're all very, very active. So we're able to kind of get away and do this as we want, So for us, our NSCA shoots, whether it's our buckle races or our majors, are really more of a marketing tool than anything. It's our way to get people to come to the club who otherwise wouldn't, and it's our way to give back to the sport, do the portion of it that we're all most passionate about, because we love the NSCA stuff. We love the competitive atmosphere. It gets us excited. So we, again, so we're pretty privileged, and we're able to have a little more freedom to do it. We could probably lose money on these and be fine, but we try to shoot for between 20 and 25% net profit before tax. And now after you take tax out, they kill us even more. But between 20 and 25%, we're staying there. We're pretty happy. Our corporate shoots, they're a fair amount higher than that. But for our register, that's about where we like to live. And that's, I think, where we're able to give as much back as we can, and, throw a really good shoot where people come back and say, like, yeah, that was awesome. That was a perfect shoot.
Right. Brian, I know Vero is a substantially smaller club. Do you guys have a little different margin you look at?
We're also kind of a unique situation with our firearms retail side of the business. So we throw 2.5 to 3 million targets here a year, which is pretty cool on less than 60 acres. But what's really we're kind of padded as well because we get people there, people buy guns, but our margins are relatively similar. So yeah, it's right in that same ballpark. But yeah, our business is a little bit more seasonal. So in the wintertime, we have a lot of recreational shooting going on when it's super hot down here in Florida and everybody goes back to wherever they're from normally. Our shoots they do become part of our budget, and it's an integral part of what we do. But for the most part, we don't need to make a huge margin. That's how we keep the prices where we are, because when people come, they purchase the firearms. We do have a strong membership, a lot of ammunition and stuff like that. But the shoot almost, it's not a loss leader, but it's pretty close to get people in the door.
Well,
but guys, too. Sorry to cut you off, but
no,
at
go
the
ahead.
same time, I think on that, it's important for people to recognize, we are, us and down there in Florida, we're very, very successful clubs in very successful areas. If you want to start a good club, do it in South Florida or Texas or somewhere, because you're probably going to have enough people to do well. But some of these other clubs, that don't have that business and they do need that profit margin to stay afloat, they need to get it, right? Because we want that club to survive. We want them to continue to throw birds and have,
right.
So if those guys need to be more like 40% or 50%, why not? It's a private business. They're trying to stay afloat. They're trying to show everybody a great time. I think there's a place for that as well.
Yeah, profit's not a dirty word. I own a small business, and
no.
People just have to realize, you don't do this. You can't do it all year round just to break even. You have to be able to make money and pay your staff, and also you have to have that extra money because costs change, inflation, all the stuff we've been seeing here in the last couple of years comes into effect, and sometimes you can't adjust prices quick enough to keep up with the changing business world. The supply chain and everything is coming into play for almost everything that you buy. Eggs, gasoline, diesel fuel, anything. Just pick it. 2x4s at Home Depot are triple what they were 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
So...
Well, and so I got a little list here. I'm going to run through this list real quick. And you guys feel free to jump in if I miss something or if you want to comment on something. So, for example, I've got $250,000 here for a 16-station course. And people think, my God, how did you come up with that number? A trap's $2,800. Okay, well, you got the trap, the cart, the solar panel, the magazine cover, the receivers, the deep cycle marine batteries. There's one for each trap plus one for the card reader. The stands, the trash buckets. It's $250,000. Do you guys agree with that as a rough figure?
Oh, well, not to mention any site work that you need to do.
Oh, no, that's part of my list here. Don't get a hold of me, Mike.
Yeah, we with the amount of earth we've had to raise here in order to get everything, to stay dry, and we can get 8, 9, 10 inches of rain in a day, and we're going to hold our shoot. We'll be fine. But
right.
That costs a lot of money to do that. The amount of rock, the amount of dirt, just to build that course, it's tremendous.
Well, the $250,000 I was talking about was specifically in just the clay target equipment.
Right.
Just for a 16-station course. Brian, do you somewhat agree with that, or am I somewhere in the realm there?
Yeah, you're definitely in the realm. We, with our acreage scenario, we have 4 traps on every station to maximize what we have for acreage. So it's for 16 stations would be again double that. But yeah, we have to have variety stuff for people to shoot. So that's one of the things to do it. But yeah, absolutely. It's not inexpensive to start one of these things.
So to go on here. Okay. So you got gravel roads or cart paths. Okay. Those need constant maintenance and gravel, or if you don't pave them, which is a huge expense. You got staffing and payroll. Somebody had to mow the grass that week, right? You got dumpsters to get rid of everybody's crap. The electric bill, I'm sure, is not cheap. Maintenance on traps, carts, roads, batteries, emptying the trash, moving traps, setting targets, cleaning. I'm sure it's ridiculous insurance cost to own a gun club, not including building the clubhouse, buying the land, the property taxes. Please feel free to interrupt me if I'm missing something.
No, you got it. And at these shoots, credit card fees alone can be $10,000 or $15,000.
Oh,
credit card fees, PayPal fees, all of that. Every little bit adds up pretty fast.
Well, and don't misunderstand me. I don't want people to think I'm trying to paint a picture of woe is me as the club, but in a general business sense, like if you took a business model to an investor and said, I want to open a club, they'd probably look at you like you got a unicorn horn sticking out of your head. But
there's probably smarter things you could do with your time and money. There probably is. You only open a club if you love it and you're a fanatic and you're a little crazy. Yeah. And I think people got to remember that everybody, and I could probably speak for 99 out of 100 clubs and club owners and club managers, which we're all doing it because we love it. You know, before we were owners or managers or whatever, we were shooters too, and most of us still are, and we're doing this because we're very, very passionate about this game and we love it. So we have a very, very strong burning desire to do it right and to do right by the shooters and give them the best experience. I mean, that's the goal of not just our club or Brian's club, but that's the majority of clubs' goals, and that's how we all want to do it.
Well, and it's funny because, like, you know, up here in Ohio, if I wanted to pick on a couple clubs locally, you know, you take Dan Bailey, who wants the shooter's experience to be, you know, the most pristine grounds in Central Ohio that you could shoot on. Or you take Cardinal Center, they want to give you a variety between their trap, skeet, bunker, sporting clays, fee task, 3-gun. I mean, they offer everything, right? So it's just it's really cool to see how each club offers a unique experience over the other. Brian, you made the comment you're on just over 60 acres there. But that club, and Sean and I even said it in the video we made when we came down there, really packs a serious punch for that small lot of land. Mm-hmm. I mean, the experience that we had in there, I mean, I told Sean we listened, I was like, I'm never missing a Caribbean Cup ever again down there. I mean, it was just that, it was so much fun just shooting there by ourselves versus being there in a big tournament. I can only imagine. Brian, did I leave anything out? Is there another point that you would like to try and make too?
I really think it's all about its passion, you know, from ownership through the staff, you know, there's nobody that's more important than anybody else on a staff in one of these clubs because everybody has an integral job of what they do. But everybody that does this could be doing something else, and I think everybody strives to do it as well as they can, whatever their point of, or part of the game is. And it's I can tell you, in hiring people and building a staff and a team, it's absolutely a family. We have a lot of families involved because it's so much time and effort and everything like that. But the payoff is when it's really meaningful when somebody comes up at the end of the event and says, hey, that was really good. Whether it's the target sets or if it's I kind of strive for the overall event in my position now to make sure that everything runs on time, that the vendors are happy, that the banquets go off well, that food's good, that everything's like that, because the whole overall picture. And what I find really unique about it is memorable shoots for me have been, M&M, grew up shooting there, Backwoods, Rocky Creek. They all offer something really different. And then, I mean, there's hundreds of other clubs that do a great job, but those are ones that stand out to me. And you can't really put a finger on what they do specifically better or different than anybody else, but you just know that it's good. And you just always strive to do that and find your own little thing. And that's what we really work to do. And I think that's what drives us as a team down here in Vero is to try to be the best with what we can do. Make sure that shooters have a good time and get good value for their money as much as the cost. It's obviously a business. We need to make a living. Everybody needs to get paid and live their lives. But the real thing that drives it is the passion to just do the best you can. And I can tell you that goes all the way through our staff. I mean, you guys have met the guys and gals here. It's, they're all passionate about what they do.
Gotcha.
Well, it takes a village, as they say, right, Sean?
Right. Well, and that's our whole point with this whole podcast. People sometimes don't realize or can't see the big picture.
Right.
I mean, Jason and I had our eyes open when we went down for the Game Boire Invitational and helped David set up everything. I mean, we saw all the moving parts.
Help David set up everything. Even when we worked under his whip, he was cracking.
Well, that too. But I'm just saying, I mean, people often don't realize just how much work is involved in setting up even a small tournament, let alone a big blast or some big name tournament. I mean, there's so many moving parts, lots of costs, like we've gone through all this other stuff. And we just want people to be aware that, so it is $85 or $90 or $100 or whatever it is. I mean, that's very, very minuscule when you look at all the other associated costs involved with it. I mean, especially, if you're a shooter, hell, you spend more than that on your ammo. Yeah, I mean, just the ammo itself.
Well, but I really like what Brian said about the staff, and Mike's is no different. I mean, Mike, we met you through your wife, and I can tell just by the conversations we've had previously that you guys have got a really tight knit staff. You're like family, and you guys work and play together.
Guys who work here for 20 years. I mean, I got 4 or 5 guys here who average 15 to 20 years at this club.
That's incredible.
They'll work here probably until they're done working.
Wow, that's awesome. I really love hearing that. Hey, real quick, both of you, we've had you both on for a hot minute here. Real quick before we let you go, is there anything coming up at your club that you want to announce or talk about? Maybe a big shoot or something coming up? Mike, we'll start with you.
Well, we got the Diamond Classic this fall, but I think, bigger than that, Texas State Championship, Browning Briley Texas State Championship next April. It's going to be awesome. We're paying out. It's going to be, I think it's going to be the best Texas State shoot there's ever been. We're excited to do it. It'll be the first time we've done it here, biggest shoot we've ever done. But I mean, part of those costs, man, we're working on it already. We're a year away, and we're already. I mean, I'm spending an hour or two every day on it. So
yeah,
and we'll probably continue to do that for the next year. So yeah, Texas State 2024, man, it's coming up.
Well, put us on the calendar. Get a hold of us a couple months ahead of time, and we'll get some information out once you get those details nailed down.
Okay.
Hey, Brian, what about you, buddy? What's coming up at Vero?
We have all of our monthly shoots and a lot of benefit stuff and stuff like that. We have this thing in December coming up that we're really, really excited for with these 2 crazy guys that want to come set some targets and hang out with us. We're finalizing all the registration for the Caribbean Classic for 24, which obviously we'll be letting you guys know, and you can drop the bomb on when that is going to go live. We
absolutely
want to first crack to our members and guests, but then also the listeners here to figure out when to get their registration, because that one, fortunately for us, fills up pretty quickly. We're excited to add some things to that to kind of expand the amount of entries we can take on certain events. It's fortunately it's sold out the last few years, but which is a good problem. But we want to get more people in there that are available. And we're constantly working, finishing the clubhouse and everything like that to make that event even better. And we're really looking forward to those 2 things as well as, all of our monthly and corporate events.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, guys, thank you both very much. We appreciate your time. Obviously, both of you know you can get a hold of us anytime. Anything you want to get out there, don't be afraid to get a hold of us. Brian, I'll be talking to you here soon. And then, of course, Mike, we'll be talking about those towers here in the next month, I hope.
Looking forward to it.
But both of you, sincerely, thank you very much. We appreciate y'all's time.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks for having us, guys.
All right. Well, everybody enjoy your evening. Brian, Mike, a privilege to have you on here. I think we got some good information out to our listeners. And again, thank you guys for participating and giving us your insight.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Really just thank all the shooters that continue to make these events work for the gun clubs. And anybody that comes to any of our events, feel free to call us, ask us questions. We want it to do the best we can for the shooters, for sure. When you call the gun club, be sure to ask for Ashley. She'll gladly answer all these questions.
All right, Ashley.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Well, Brian, we always have Vero right down in the show description there with the link. Mike on the Greater Houston Gun Club, and any phone numbers or anything like that. When we get off the phone here, don't be afraid to text me if you want a general phone number included with that too.
Okay. All right.
All right, we'll see you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us, guys. Bye.
Well, Jason, what do you think, man? I mean, I think we covered it all, and I think that definitely puts a lot of things in perspective for shooters that don't understand the work and the cost and everything that's involved in putting on a shoot.
Yeah, I hope I don't come off wrong. I'm not trying to come off as like major defense for the club, but there's some people that just think that, well, this is ridiculous. They're charging this much for a target, and it's like, guys, look at what they're paying.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not.
And you're basically catered to from the time you get there. I mean, there's a trapper on every station. They're going to have lunch or some kind of a meal for you. They're going to have snacks. They're going to have water. And you're basically showing up for an experience.
Right. Well, and then I know somebody is going to say something about this. Well, what about such and such shoot that charges, $300 for 200 targets. Well, that's probably a big blast shoot. It's probably got a huge purse attached to it. It's probably got a big dinner involved. It's probably got a bunch of giveaways involved.
They probably brought in a big name target setter. They probably rented a bunch of big equipment like towers and scissor lifts to really put on some cool targets.
You know, if you stop and think about that for just a minute, I know we pick on the Jack Links Club or tournament a lot because we love it so much and love going down there. Next year's purse is $300,000.
Yeah.
What they gave away over $60,000 in guns last year.
Yep.
Or this year.
Not to mention the nice gift bag that you got when you got there.
Yeah. Can you imagine what the cost? Okay, you take the $300,000 purse, but then all those big lifts, you heard what Mr. Boire said.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Plus they feed you for 2 nights. Plus they give all those guns away.
Yeah.
Right? Plus the goodie bags and that staff. Can you imagine that staff?
Oh, that'd be incredible.
I mean, it just...
Sheriffs out on the road directing traffic. I mean, you got everything going on.
I could not possibly imagine the cost. I bet you that shoot probably cost, for a $300,000 purse, that's probably $750,000 to $1 million to put on that shoot.
Oh, I bet you every bit of that. So, I mean, again, guys, we're not trying to beat a dead horse here. It's just the fact that keep in mind before you start bitching about targets or costs of tournaments, if you go out to the club on the weekend, it costs you $40 for 100 targets anyways at most club rates. So if you're spending $80, $85, $90 for a full-blown 100 bird course that's catered to you with trappers, with a lunch...
Yeah.
I mean, really? It's not that bad.
It's not.
Not that bad at all.
So, hey, listen, don't let this discourage you. You know, I mean, I know the tournaments are getting expensive and it's getting harder with ammo and travel expenses and everything else, but don't let this discourage you. We love the sport. The people that run these clubs love the sport, or else they wouldn't be doing it. We've just proved that.
Yep. Work a couple hours of overtime, get a little side hustle going, you know.
Yeah.
Put the clay fun jar.
You can always make more money.
I guess.
I didn't say it was easy to do. I just said you can always make more money.
Most people have the opportunity, that's for sure. So,
but hey, listen, while you got the pocketbook out and you're spending money, you need to check out Elite Shotguns, Fiocchi USA, barrel pelt. Get you a custom barrel pelt, but you got to look good going to these tournaments, Sean Alley.
Heck yes.
Plus the functionality of it. Atlas traps, there you go. Give me a call. I'll hook you up with a trap you can practice with. RE Ranger, got to see them targets.
Yep.
Auto Pro technology. You don't want to hear that gun, but you sure want to hear that trapper.
Protect those ears, people.
That's right. Rhino chokes.
Gotta love Rhino, gotta love porting, gotta love chokes. Those are great guys to deal with too.
Absolutely. Vero Beach, we just had Mr. Palmer on.
If you haven't been there, you gotta visit.
December 1st and 2nd.
December 1st and 2nd, especially, and then also the Caribbean Classic the next year.
Yes. So. And you know they're throwing white flyer targets.
Absolutely.
You know you can get signed up on Score Chaser.
That's right.
And you know you can get your mind right with some Don Grant on the way there, can't you?
Yeah, it's kind of like the whole enchilada.
I know, right?
It's perfect.
Get your wallet out. Give me that ProSign Studio credit card. I mean,
you just back off.
We're gonna go shopping.
Just back off.
Christmas in May.
Good God.
Oh, I love it. Anyway, what do we tell everybody every week, Mr. Alley?
Well, if this isn't more to point to the case, get out there to the club, get out there, break some targets, bring some friends with you, rent some guns, have some fun, see what this sport's really about. And if you haven't done it yet, sign up for a registered tournament or even a charity shoot. Just get out there and see how an organized shoot goes, because I think most of you guys, if you haven't done it, you're really going to like it. And
thank you to my beautiful wife for tolerating me. We're thanking everybody, so we've got to thank her, Sean Alley.
Yep, we don't say it enough. Jules, you are the heart and soul of getting these things out and getting them mixed down. We can't thank you enough, and we appreciate all your hard work.
Absolutely. And until next week.
Can't wait to see y'all back here on the Dead Pair Podcast.
We'll see you next time on the Dead Pair Podcast.
The Dead Pair. The Dead Pair Podcast is brought to you by Elite Shotguns and Vero Beach Clay Shooting and is fueled by Fiocchi USA. The Dead Pair theme song was written, arranged, and produced by Toby Tomplay. Special thanks to the following sponsors: Bear Pelt, Rhino, Auto Pro, Don Grant, Atlas Trap Company, RE Ranger, and White Flyer Targets.